Shalom, welcome everybody. Good morning from a very cold Boston. We actually have 2 inches of snow on the ground. My name is Karen Tab. I am an artist based in Boston and a member of the J Arts community, the HBI community. And I wanted to welcome you to Studio Israel. It is a virtual opportunity to get a deeper understanding and glimpse into the vibrant Israeli society through arts and culture, food and fashion. We've had a number of incredibly successful meetings with artists in their studios, musicians in their recording studios, and fashionistas on the streets of Tel Aviv. And so this morning I wanted to welcome you to Studio Israel with Netta El-Kayam, and also give Professor Yuval Evry from Brandeis, and thank the co-sponsors for this event, the Combined Jewish Philanthropies, the Jewish Arts Collaborative, Hadassah Brandeis Institute, the Schusterman Center for Israel Studies at Brandeis, and Vilna Shul in Boston. And for today's event, we're also very grateful to the Israeli Consulate in Boston for their support. Before I make the introduction to Netta El-Kayam and Yuval Evry, I wanted to make sure that if you have any questions, please post them in the chat. And here we go. So Yuval Evry is Assistant Professor of Near Eastern and Judaic Studies and Marash and Okin Chair in Ottoman, Mizrahi, and Sephardic Jewish Studies at Brandeis University, and a core faculty member of the Schusterman Center for Israel Studies. Netta El-Kayam, a musician, has gained worldwide recognition as a performer of North African music. She collaborates with renowned local and international musicians and orchestras on stages around the world. She has received multiple awards, including the Akum Award, the Sami Michael Award, and nominated for the Ophir Oscar Award for leading role in 2019's musical film Redfield's Mommy. Welcome, and I hand it over to you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Hi.
And thank you for your nice introduction and for inviting me to participate in this wonderful event. I am really, really delighted to have the opportunity to speak with Netta El-Kayam about her musical and artwork. In my opinion, Netta is one of the most interesting and groundbreaking artists and musicians in Israel today. Shalom, Netta.
Shalom, how are you?
I'm okay. Thank you for, first of all, welcome to Brandeis, even though it's only virtual. Inshallah, in the future, you're going to come and visit us.
Thank you for inviting me. And actually, it's not, our first time. We already met in your son's bar mitzvah.
Yes, we had.
It was very exciting.
Yeah, definitely.
How is he?
Yeah, he's amazing. He's now going to be 15, and he will never forget it. And I think his great grandmother from Morocco will never forget.
And I will never forget the grandmothers and all the old ladies there. Yes. They were amazing, and they shared stories, and it was a very exciting evening.
Yeah, definitely. We will never forget it, and thank you very much. It was our great privilege to have you there. So thank you very much for joining us from Paris, and maybe if we'll have time, maybe later in our conversation, we'll say something about the festival that you've been there. So I remember clearly that the first time I heard your music, I think it was probably 10 years ago, around 2012. Somebody sent me a link of, yes, to 2012, right?
Yeah, the first video.
Yes. So somebody sent me the link. I was already in London back then, and sent me a link with your clip, and you performed the song Ta'ali. So that it was the original performed by the great Algerian Jewish singer Salim Halali. And from the first moment I watched it, I realized that there is something new and revolutionary here. But in the same time, it was echoing something that is new and familiar from the cultural words from the past. So the clip, first of all, I couldn't stop listening to it. And it brought me back to my childhood in Beersheba, to the sounds I heard in the neighborhoods, in the neighbors' houses, in the synagogue, at at family events. Since then, I have been, following your work with great interest and excitement, along the years. For example, your tribute projects that you did together with your husband and musical partner Amit Chai Cohen, that we can now see in the background, the Ta'ali, the first. Maybe you can listen a little bit to it, and then I'll continue.
تعالي 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 يا نور العين رحميني بحضورك نمشي وسوا الاتنين تعالي انت في ايدك نمشي وسوا الاتنين تعالي انت في ايدك تعالي يا غزالي تعالي تسوي عقبالي يا زود بالي غيرك ما يحلالي تعالي تعالي.
So it's beautiful. So you filmed it right in your house in Netivot, am I right?
No, it was in the Katamonim already.
Okay.
Yes, Amit
But
and
I can see a lot of musicians and activists that are part of. In many ways, it's going back to a music that is, it's like reclaiming a music, a tradition.
Yeah, I will explain everything. I mean,
yeah, we'll talk about it. But in the same time, we can see a lot of musicians that are very now, of course, this is Amit Chai Cohen, your husband and partner, and there is Ofir Tubal and others that are very active in this kind of reclaiming project.
Gilad Vaknin.
Yeah,
Yes,
Gilad Vaknin here, yeah. So this is great. I remember I watched it and it was really, it drew me back to Beersheba in one hand, to my, my own musical landscape, and in the other sense, I can see the revolutionary project here, the new, the reclaiming that is having a new interpretation to this music. So I, following your work for the last decade, your tributes to, as I said, to these musicians, the North African musician like Zohar Al-Fassi, we're going to talk about it later, about Maurice Al-Madiouni and others, and following your performance in festivals around the world and your collaboration with Moroccan artists in Israel, in France, and Morocco. As part of your, part of this wonderful journey was also documented in 2 documentaries directed by Moroccan-French director Kamal Ashkar. The last one was published last year. In Your Eyes, I See My Country, that I really highly recommend everyone to go and look for it. So your musical and artistic work offers a possibility of return to Arab Jewish musical tradition that were negated and marginalized in the Israeli mainstream cultural scene for decades. It also offers a renewed cultural bridge that transgresses the walls, borders, and hostility between Arabs and Jews and between Hebrew and Arabic. Instead, it reclaims the Arab-Jewish shared past in order to look forward, hopefully, towards the shared future for Arab and Jews in the Middle East. So there is this kind of, looking at your work for the last decade, we can talk about it during our conversation today. We will try to touch upon some of these issues and their relations to questions of identity, language, immigration, belonging, and homeland. And we also will try to, to touch some of your main artistic project. But maybe let's start with your background, if we can. So if you can try, let's start with your upbringing in Netivot, the development town in the south region of Israel, Maybe you can tell us a little bit about the cultural, linguistic, and musical landscape that you surrounded you during those formative years. What was the role of your family? And you spoke a lot about the role of your grandmother in shaping your artistic journey. And maybe if you can also touch about the connection to Moroccan Arabic or Amazigh during your childhood, the languages of the Moroccan languages.
Okay, so thank you for all the compliments and like I feel like you summed all my artistic work in a very big and academic words. But you know, as you said, when you saw the video, it reminded me Be'er Sheva. This was the way we felt when we looked for our new home in Jerusalem, and we got to see a Katamonim neighborhood, and immediately it was, I remember, Sukkot. Everybody built their own sukkah on the balcony, and we were like, you know, looking, wandering around, and we heard a lot of piyutim and prayers from the Sukkot and brachot. And okay, I looked at Amit and I said, okay, I want to live here. Let's look around. And yes, so you saw this first video and you recognize a lot of people that are now activists, Mizrahi activists in Israel. And I want just to remind or maybe tell the audience, because not a lot of people remember that 2011, a year before that, was the big, you know, demonstrations and revolution, like חברתית, מחאה חברתית, sorry.
Yes, so social,
social, yeah.
Social change, yeah.
Yeah, the social change of 2011. A lot of us just met in the streets, in demonstrations, and those people, I mean, we gathered around the subject of public housing for Mizrahim in the neighborhoods, and a lot of poor people that found themselves a cause, like because of their Mizrahi background and history, not able to have like a korat gag, a house, a rooftop over their heads. So I remember we established this group called Ma'abara, the transit camp, because it connected us also to the history of the 50s, when our grandparents came from all around Islamic countries, and in my case, North Africa. And they were living in Ma'abarot, which is like transit camps all around, like the far places, peripheral areas of Israel. And of course, we grew up on stories, as you mentioned, the languages. We had, in my hometown, Netivot, people were using Moroccan Arabic all around. Even if they didn't speak with us as kids, we heard it. It went into our blood system. It inserts. So actually, only later, maybe 20 years later, when I will go for the first trip to Morocco when I was 28, I would understand that I know much more than I thought from Moroccan Arabic. And of course, I started to learn it and to reclaim it, as you said. But back then, when I was a kid, I think all this culture that you talked about was a bit transparent for me, because you know, when you are a child, I mean, you grow up and you don't feel that what's around you is special. The opposite, you look around, you want to see what is outside. You know, we are the generation of MTV, and I also had a rock band when I was younger, and we searched outside all the time, and we wanted to be like international and others, and not to look like our parents. So actually it took me time until I understood that my background matters, and my background has something to do with my life now. And also when I got my education, I mean, I started as an artist, visual artist, and I went to the academic to learn arts. So nobody mentioned, I mean, arts from Islamic countries, and I'm not talking about specifically Jewish art, which is also a genre, but in general, like it wasn't something that you learn. You learn everything out of very a certain point, usually from European point of view. And for example, when Picasso discovered the African masks, so the African genre started. Not to mention the thousands of years that it was exist before Picasso. So actually, I think my trip to Morocco when I was 28 opened my eyes to a lot of things, and opened my eyes also to understand that I have to look. I mean, first my roots, my door, my parents. I mean, my little hometown apparently was the most biggest inspiration for the art I will create later.
Yes, yeah, and I and I'm interested because you were growing up in Netivot. Netivot is very famous. And I think in a way, when I'm thinking about your music, all the
Famous
southern, for many things, for Moroccan tradition, for musical Moroccan tradition. So I think in a way,
I thought you were going to say for the Woodstock of Baba Sali.
Woodstock of Baba Sali as well. Yeah, definitely. So that's the place that people are coming to worship and from all over the.
Yeah. The Baba Sali is a great rabbi. I would show you. Maybe you can keep talking.
And I was thinking about the southern, area that will have many of the Moroccan musicians that you are going back to were located in this area. So in Ashdod, in Netivot, in Beersheba. I'm talking about Mike Carucci, about definitely Sfatayim in Sderot, and others in Netivot, and Raymond, of course. So in a way, I was trying to think if this kind of musical tradition you were exposed to it during your younger age.
Yeah. I mean, as I said, it was transparent, but it was always there. I mean, when we celebrated weddings and bar mitzvahs, and even in the Mimuna and the Hilula of Baba Sali. So every time it was, why did I say Woodstock? Because I was kidding, but actually it was the one day of the year that you could celebrate Moroccan music with full volume, and you didn't care about what the neighbor says, because it was like, an authorization to be Moroccan in Israel in those 2 days, Mimuna and the Hilula of Baba Sali. And yes, Baba Sali was a great figure for a lot of Jewish Moroccans, and he was that photo that hanged on every grandmother's wall. And for me, when I was invited by the University of Ben Gurion to participate the exhibition of the figure of Ben Gurion, so I did this portrait, which is of course has a lot of humor. So you don't have to take it so seriously.
But I love the Baba Gurion.
Yeah, so I called him Baba Gurion because, of course, those two figures were very important for the immigrants. One of them, was the one who brought them to the place they are now. But the other one was the religious authorization for coming. So Baba Sali was even in a way more important for them than Ben Gurion, because they were more they came out of more religious reasons they were longing to the Holy Land. I mean, when my grandmother came, she was talking about Jerusalem, like, you know, from the stories of the Bible, from the stories of the prayers. She didn't know what's going on around, and she didn't understand why we're not getting along with the Arabs here. So yes, only when after she died, I started to be a political person. But back then, she would ask me, and I didn't know what to say as a kid. So Baba Gurion, yes, it's a portrait of Ben Gurion with the figure and the position of Baba Sali with the little glass of mahya. And I was putting the dictionary of Arabic Hebrew, because when I read the biography of Ben Gurion, he said that out of all the languages he knows, there is a stubborn one that he never succeeded to learn, and this is Arabic. So I put gave him the
So I would
dictionary of Hebrew Arabic to help him.
No, that's amazing. I really love it. I saw it in your. So I think after I discovered your music, I then discovered your art. That in a way, you started as an artist before you went into being full musician, and you still work with art and music and the connection. I think that we'll talk in a minute about this project of portraits, and I think I see the relation between this project and the project of homage that you did for artists and your connection to musicians. But before that, maybe we can talk when you mentioned Arabic, because part of your return to this Moroccan tradition, musical tradition, was part of this project was to return to the language itself. Can you say something about this process?
Yeah, of course. I mean, first I started with songs. I can confess that at the beginning I just wrote the Arabic letters in Hebrew and tried to imitate the voices of the singers. And I mean, when I first recorded something and uploaded it, I didn't know what's going to happen. And the responses to what I did and to the way I performed the Jewish North African singer, it gave a lot of inspiration to people, and I think the feedback made me believe that there is something here. I mean, there's a powerful thing that I wasn't thinking about so much, and of course it went together also with the political views and the understanding that, I mean, for years everybody lied to me and said things about how much is not important to hear stories about the past. It is not important to talk about Aidot, to talk about our Jewish tribes and Jewish backgrounds. And I felt that it is something that I need to go under, to challenge. And when I came back from Morocco, I remember myself walking around the old city of Jerusalem streets with the fresh Arabic that I still had in my tongue. And people were so kind to me, and people like, marhaba, and sabah al-khair, and welcome. And I said to myself, wow, something is wrong. I mean, how come it didn't went so well with our ancestors? And of course, I'm not naive. I mean, you have to go and to see those streets and to understand how much hard is to live as a Arab in Israel. And not to mention that if you are speaking Arabic in the street, it is even more scary. I mean, even now when I talk on the phone with my friends in Arabic, I get a lot of looks. I mean, Israelis are afraid of this language, and I said to myself, I mean, it can't be like that. I mean, it's the language of my grandmother. I feel when I hear it, I feel so passionate, and I feel, everybody when they listen to their mother tongue, I mean, it's something that makes you immediately cry. Think about all those years that you were a little kid, and you, I mean, of course, it's something that is very powerful. And losing those mother tongues, I mean, made me think that it's not possible. I mean, we cannot afford that, especially if we couldn't explain it to our grandkids. I mean, something horrible is going to happen to my society. And I felt that I need to work urgently to do something about it. So in a funny way, I needed to look for an Arabic teacher, and I couldn't find one. I couldn't find like a Moroccan Jewish teachers for the language, and that you know it was very hard. It was a rare thing, and so I started to learn a regular Arabic. I mean the Arabic of Jerusalem, and to read and write it as well. And then I started to practice the dialect of my grandmother, and it was through the songs and through the visits in Morocco, and through the social networks. I mean, social media, talking with friends from Morocco. I mean, we started this path also thanks to the social media. I mean, social media as a musician now is very, very powerful. And of course, there are places that I cannot visit as Jewish woman, and also there are places that Arabs cannot visit us. So social media is an open space without borders that enabled me to reach out many people that didn't know the story of Jews from Islamic countries, and in general they didn't even think about me as necessarily as a Jewish. I mean, they saw their own grandmother, they saw the passion to this shared past. So that's how everything started.
Yeah, no, that's really interesting to see, because I'm looking at the YouTube channel, and you can see a lot of comments in Arabic or comments in French from
the majority is
majority, and you see that the people are watching it all over the world. And maybe before this kind of platforms, people will never know that you will, because you can't, to some places you can't even reach and perform. So so first of all, you maybe you mentioned that,
and also the opposite. I mean, Algerian cannot go in, Syrian, Lebanese. I mean, yes, it goes both ways.
Yeah, definitely. And I think that you mentioned the Arabic. I think that it's worth mentioning that the situation with the knowledge of Arabic among Israeli Jews is really bad. There is a recent survey that shows that almost only 4% of the Israeli Jews can really read and write in Arabic. It's almost zero. But some of the people will hear the language and remember it from family, and this is we have to take into consideration that 50-60 years ago, half of the Jews, Arabic was their mother tongue. And I think this kind of project that you do and other musicians are doing in your generation, third generation, going back to Arabic and bring it into a popular and performer
into English.
Yeah, and into English, it's great. It's wonderful. So I think that maybe I would want to go now and talk about a little bit about your portrait project. That I discovered it after I discovered your music, and it's beautiful. And what I saw that it's a portrait project mainly of leading Algerian and Moroccan Jewish musicians. And that whose heritage was being forgotten and marginalized in mainstream Israeli culture. In a way, the portrait technique reminds me the way that we in some of the houses of Mizrahi houses will have this kind of portraits of rabbis. Baba Sali, but not only the Baba Sali, Rabbi Yosef Chaim for the Iraqis and others, but it's a little bit remind me. And it placed the figures in the forefront in a way of the stage, and it offers a new interpretation to the legacy. So can you tell us a little bit about this project and how it, if you can tell us about the connection between this project and the homage that you organized to some of these musicians along the years, such as Zohar
I mean, I
El-Fassia.
sang song by each musician that I painted, I drawed. I mean, it's a mixed technique. But yes, we mentioned Salim Halali and we saw Ta'ali video. I mean, I think those figures were by their songs, I learned my history, like very simple. Salim Halali is unknown for most of the Israelis, most of the people in the world, but Salim Halali was a fascinated figure. He was a singer, he was an artist in all his soul. He's a vocalist. I mean, I think maybe the most talented vocalist and amazing vocalist that came out of North Africa. And a lot of people until now, especially singers that sing this style, is trying to imitate him, are trying to imitate him. So, and also Salim Halali had a very, very crazy story during the Holocaust. He was hidden by the mosque in Paris, and they lied to the Germans about his religion, and they said that he's Muslim, and they even built a grave in the Muslim cemetery with the family name Halali to prove that, in order to save the great voice of North Africa. And there is a special, I mean, you could see the biography in the film Les Hommes Libres, the free men. I don't know how it is translated to English, but I can send you a link after. Salim Halali was the main character of this film, and what was amazing that the actors that played his figure is a Palestinian actor from Haifa, which I got to know personally later, and he told me that he needed to break his tongue to learn the Darija and the French. And another Jewish singer that lives in Morocco, Pinchas Cohen, needed to sing the songs in the film. So actually, it's not Muhammad Shalabi that sang the real songs. It was mixed between a Jewish singer from Morocco inside the voice and body of a Palestinian singer from Haifa. So it's amazing. And the figure, and the first figure, is a Jewish man born in Algeria and grew up and traveled all around North Africa. He was really a great figure, and when I heard about the story of Salim, and I heard about and I heard his music, he performed, for example, in Paris back in the 70s or 80s, a Moroccan version for Yiddish Emame, which is, I think, the most beautiful version to Yiddish Emame I ever heard. Of course, I'm not very objective, but Salim Halali is one of the figures that made me think, okay, I mean, there are a lot of other options to be Jewish. I mean, I could also pick like multi-identity influences and live my whole identity, I mean, I have a lot of parts, and as you mentioned, you know, the Amazigh, the Arabic, and the Jewish, and the Israeli, and everything is a beautiful mixture. Why should I be just like one thing? And I think nowadays, I mean, I'm trying to educate my kids and to maybe to try to have this influence around. For the Israelis to be more open to their backgrounds, not afraid, especially the Mizrahim, not be afraid to speak their mother tongue, because, you know, even if it's not very accepted and it's a political statement, I think we have to do that. We have to do that in order to fit in and to also to have the continuity of Judaism from another, you know, story.
Yeah, definitely. And I think that if you can also show some of the, you know, how this kind of project of portraits that you have here, and I can see Joe Amar, and I can see Shua Zulai, and of course, Zohar El-Fassia is there.
Yes. Zohar Al-Fassia is a great figure that I also dedicate a tribute, a big tribute to her with my husband Amit Chai Cohen. We made it together and the premiere was in 2016 in the International Oud Festival in Jerusalem. Would you like to see a few minutes of it?
Yes, definitely.
Okay.
الحباب عملوا الولاء وعرضوه على زهر الفاسية تجيه وتغنيه ونشوفوا زين على شدوي ونشوفوا زين على شدوي هو ليبيا كوانيكيا هو ليبيا كوانيكيا انا نحلف لي اذا يشبالي انا نحلف لي اللي يشبالي عمري ما ندوزك وقول لي يا الغادي جربان تعالي ونقولي بكيت هاي جوز عفان قولي واش فيك يا بنتي يلي على خدك وردة يا بنتي يلي على خدك وردة بربي قول لي يا ابوك شكون ندفع له في مال ما يرضى يا سمرة غنجة العيون
كيف سالكون لم يتركني وقت إذا اسمي لكي لم يتركني
وردة من صنعة الباري كيف نشوفك تشعر واش من عار عليكم يا رجال مكناكم يا رجال مكناس انت عينيك في الدشيشة ولا بالريشة والمضارب الكبار يا نار الله الله يا مويحنا وعلاش كيموتوا الولاد يا نار
במשך שנים ליוויתי אותה, צילמתי אותה. היא הייתה הזמרת הכי גדולה בהיסטוריה של יהודי מרוקו.
مولاي إبراهيم صاحب الفقراء يقضي حوايجي بالحلول فعل
פתאום אתה מוצא קול של נטע, שהוא בדיוק הקול של זוהר אלפסיה שהייתה צעירה. זה נס מן השמיים.
מראה בצבעי עיתון זולים. כשהיא אומרת מוחמד החמישי אישו לעינינו, אינך מבין ברגע הזאת. זוהר אלפסיה, קול צרוד, לב צלול, ועיניים מלאות אהבה. זוהר אלפסיה.
Thank you. This is really beautiful. And what we saw here, it's I think the multi-layer. Sorry. Okay, sorry. So what we saw here, Neta.
Yes, I wanted you to see, just to mention those two amazing inspirations that made me also connect to the figure of Zohar Al-Fassia, which first Chaim Shiran is the filmmaker that also donate us all the rare documentary materials. He was filming Zohara and he was about to make a documentary about her. He also was the first one to make a tribute to her in Israel back in the 90s. It was 4 years before she died. And the other one is Erez Biton. Erez Biton is a great poet, also from Moroccan origin, and he wrote the poem about Zohar Al-Fassia, which also introduced her to a lot of young people in Israel because it was part of the education program.
Yeah, definitely. So that's what I want to mention. Yeah, both of them, and I think this multi-layered connection and interpretation, and it brings me, I think, to another question. But I see that our time is going really fast, and it's sad because I can talk to you for hours. But you know, the question of course, the tension between preservation and interpretation, because part of what you know, the concept of the attitude towards Arab Jewish culture, or to Moroccan or Mizrahi culture, is that it's something that is in the past, it's a dead, you know, culture, because most of the people can't really understand the language or they don't have any connection to the place, and we need just to preserve it like a museum. And I think what your project is doing in many ways is trying to continue this project. It's a kind of interpretation, and it's a continuum of this kind of music. It's not a tribute that only try to preserve Zohar Al-Fassia or Maurice El-Medyuni or Salim Halali as such, but is a new interpretation of your work. And I think it's the same I can see in your portraits, and I will say the same about the music. But I want to go to and if you can, you know, connect to it maybe later in our conversation, but I want to just end with our part with this question. Because I think part of the interesting project of your return, in a way, to this kind of tradition and your new interpretation to it is the fact that you can go to Morocco and perform there. And I think, and you're going yearly since I think the beginning of your project there, and you participate in festivals, and you perform there, and you collaborate with musicians, with artists that are Moroccans. And I think part of what your project shows is that there is another return to this kind of Jewish tradition in Morocco. Among third generation, second generation of Moroccan Muslims that didn't know about the Jews, or don't know enough about the Jews, but want to relearn it. They relearn this tradition the same way as
they know more about.
Yeah, they know more than the Jewish Israeli. Yeah, but they really happy.
Yeah, and they put a lot of efforts. And there is a Jewish Moroccan museum in Casablanca, actually, and in Israel we don't have. But what you said, I mean, I'm really flattered that people like say to me, okay, you are saving, but I don't feel convenience with that, because I think I'm not saving anything, and I don't want to preserve anything. The opposite, when you insert something to a museum, that means that something has died. So I really don't want to be considered as a preserver, because I'm an artist and I have a lot of colors on my palette, and I also want to add other colors and not to preserve exactly what was. And tradition, I think, and Amit always said that, and I'm quoting him, is something dynamic. You cannot put tradition in a box and to say, okay, this is the way it should be, and leave it. I think we all have to adopt traditions into our lives and to do something about it. And one day our kid will say, okay, the tradition in my family was like that. But we create tradition. Tradition is life. I mean, we create from our lives, and we use all our colors and all our inspirations. And we've been like 3 weeks ago, we returned from Morocco. We've been invited to perform. Also, we've been invited to. I got the prize of Forum Salam to contemporary arts. And I got to know in this trip a lot of young people from Morocco. We had a small duo show in Sidi Qassem in the north. And then we had a big concert in front of the students of University Polytechnique in Ben Guerir, the University of the King. And it was amazing to see the young generation of Moroccan youth curious about the heritages, the past, the stories, also reclaiming it and trying to break this, shallow image of the Moroccan that sits on a pillow and drink this tea mint, because we share the same richness, and we share the same the drive to dig the roots and to find out all the amazing richness of different kinds of music, different kind of arts. There are a lot of things to learn only by traveling Morocco, and a lot of also Jewish evidence for rich and big community lives there. So I think for every Jew have to go to visit Morocco, because we have a common past full of richness there, and amazing synagogues and beautiful cemeteries. And I'm saying cemeteries, and young people say, "Oh, what do I have to do with cemetery?" But the cemeteries there. When my parents went, I used to laugh because they brought albums full of cemeteries, and I said, okay, when I will go, I will never go to see the dead. I want to see the life. But when I went to the cemetery, it was incredible. You cannot describe the feeling, because you see also the Hebrew letters and the poems on the graves. It's a special phenomenon to the Jewish Moroccan cemeteries. There are a lot of poets that used to write songs on the graves, and amazing Hebrew. Amit and I did also the tribute to Rabbi David Hassin, which is a great poet from the 18th century from Meknes. And you read those books, you read this Hebrew, and you say, and I'm saying to myself, okay, I mean, it's unfair to discover it only in my age, and I want people to know this, and to also to be curious, and to ask their parents, because some of our history, big parts of our history, unfortunately, is not written in any book. So I as a musician, I dig it through the songs, through the stories, and I love. It's a creative way to discover it. But I think also Yuval, you have an important role in writing it in books, and also people also that consume, like the audience. I'm really thankful to the audience that comes and encourage me to continue. And also in Morocco, I wanted to say also that every time I go to Morocco, I say thank you, because I feel very, very privileged that the door is open for me.
Yeah.
As a Mizrahi Jew, because I know a lot of other Mizrahi Jew cannot visit their own history and to see it physically, but Morocco leaves the door open, and I think it's very important, and it's very radical to do that, because it makes us also change the way we think about ourselves, and it changed the way we've been תופסים, like
we preserve
our perception about the politics in the Middle East. And for me, it changed me a lot. It was a turning point for me. When I came back, I didn't want to be the regular, to be in the regular path. I wanted to change everything, and I wanted to connect the others, and I wanted to start something over. And I think it's very important. Also for them, it's important because they want also the other. They need also the other. I think a society that closes itself only in a ghetto, only in a cube, it's not healthy. It's not healthy, and it's not reaching, and we're not. It turns all the people that lives in that society uncritical people. we don't have any challenge or tools how to critique our reality. So also for the Moroccans, I understand that it's important for them also to talk about the other, and they need that to their society, and I think we need it too also.
Thank you both so much. My name is Shayna Weiss. I am the Associate Director of the Schusterman Center for Israel Studies at Brandeis. I have the inevitable task of collecting everyone's questions and thinking about sort of what you've said over the past 45 minutes. We have a lot of questions. Please continue to come in. I also see that you just got a Mamuna invite, so I'll pass that along to you as well. And so I wanted to ask, you mentioned that to learn Arabic, you had to start with the Palestinian dialect before you could go learn the Moroccan dialect.
Yes.
Of course, this is a big question and it's a difficult question, but I wanted to ask you how your interaction with Palestinian Arabic and maybe local Palestinian culture has influenced how you've thought of yourself and your activism and what you're doing.
Yeah, first, the language, I mean, it was easier for me to learn Arabic because I had it, as I mentioned, when I grew up. I mean, also my parents until today, they speak with ha, with a. I mean, I have it in my throat. I mean, it's easy for me. But I was also amazed by I mean, how Hebrew and Arabic are so close to each other. I mean, and also, see, I mean, Moroccan Arabic is Arabic. I mean, eventually, it's of course, it's a mixed language, and Moroccans are more freestyle when they use the Arabic. They take from French, they take from, and also the music of the language, they pronounce it with our Amazigh roots, because, also my grandmother, it wasn't her first language to speak Arabic, I have to say. She used to speak Tamazight, which is Shilha.
Can you just say like a line or two, just so everyone is aware, like who are the Amazigh? Like,
Yeah. I can say a few words. My father is from Tinrir. It's in the Todra Valley. I mean, there is a big, long history of Jewish people from the Atlas Mountains and those areas of Amazigh people. And a lot of Jews used to speak Shilha or Rifia or Susia, which is the dialects of the how do you say, like the native Moroccans. Only 700 years ago with the Islam, and everybody adopted the Arabic, but it's like half adoption, because they stayed with the music of the Amazigh tongue, like the accent of Tamazight, and they also had a lot of influences from the Spanish and the French periods. So the Moroccan is a mixed dialect. But for me, when I started to learn with the teachers in Jerusalem, I understood that also it's a big door that opens my head and breaks a lot of walls in my head to feel more free and to feel more convenience and to have more friends from the Palestinian side. And I started to visit there, and we also, against the law, went to visit in places that we shouldn't be there as Israelis. But I don't want my parents to know that, don't tell them, okay? But I felt more convenience in those places that people told me never go there or never go there, and don't speak with these people, and don't speak. It's something that helped me also to melt a lot of fear and borders that were inside my head. So I think language is a key for a lot of things, and it's a very unfortunate thing that in Israel, the education or even the recent Chok HaLeom, they don't understand the importance, and they even treat it even worse than before. instead of understanding the big challenge and the big future that we have as Jews that speak Arabic. So this is what I have to say about that. If you have more questions.
Yeah, so I mean, I have many more, but time is limited. I read that, so this year, every year in Jerusalem, there's an amazing festival called the Oud Festival, right, that celebrates Mizrahi Jewish culture. And this year I read that it was dedicated to women's song and women's music, and that you also were part of it. So I was wondering if you could just speak about women's music in Mizrahi Jewish culture. I know that, you know, there were women had their own songs that they sang, for example, at weddings and things like that.
Yeah.
And your experience working with some of this music and performing it.
I said it in a workshop last year, yesterday, in Paris. Here, I'm in Paris now, and I told them about the fact that it was easier for women, Jewish women in the Arab world, to be the pioneers to sing in public among men. And that's why you hear all those stories about pioneer Jewish women from Tunisia, like Habiba Mesika, from Algeria, like Alice Fitoussi, Simone Tamar, and from Morocco, Zohar Al-Fassia. They were the first women to record albums, and they, I think they encouraged also other women that came after to also to work as artists and to sing and to work and to play with men, and also on stages that are not like considered holy stages. Of course, the fact that I believe that the fact that Jewish women also didn't have a place in the synagogue, equal place in the synagogue, so they searched their own way to practice and to pray, to practice Judaism. So I also found a lot of tzaddikim songs that women used to sing, and piyutim that not piyutim, but songs of connected to the circle of life. It was in Arabic more than it was in Hebrew. Like women used the whole language, the not sacred language, but yes, but they were part of the Jewish life. I mean, they used to sing when there were the China and the Brit Milah and the Bar Mitzvah and the Jewish celebrations. So they were part of Jewish life, but because they didn't have the room in the synagogue, they created their own path, and that's why it was easier also to move out from the closed Jewish society and also to work with Muslims like Alice Fitoussi and Zohar Al-Fassia. They had big respect and like international respect, because they used to have audience which was multi audience, Jewish, Muslim, and French. And yes, this what gave me actually the inspiration to do what I do.
If I had another 2 hours with you, we talk about the parallels, of course, with like Ashkenazi Jewish culture. There's a whole body of these poems that exist in
Let's
Yiddish.
not open it now. It will take like until tomorrow. We have a lot of things to say about that.
But pass it over to Karen just to give us some concluding words. I wanted to thank you all.
With pleasure.
Thank you all, and thank Netta for really an amazing discussion.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Netta. Truly inspirational, and for your leadership in this pivotal time and place in history. Toda rabba. Thank you to you, Toda rabba, and to Shana. What an incredible opportunity for a sneak peek into issues that really matter through incredible, interesting eyes. Thank you so much for your work.
Thank you for inviting me.
I wanted to share that our next Studio Israel will be on February 10th at noon. So stay tuned for when the announcement about who the next artist will be. And thank you, and Yom Tov. Thank you, Erev Tov in Paris. Truly jealous. Bye-bye, everybody.
Thank you, everyone.